Salute a tutti, and welcome to this episode of Ciao DMV, Italian American Life in the DMV. My name is Joseph Barone, and I will be your host. This podcast channel is dedicated to all things Italian and Italian American in the DMV, aka DC, Maryland, and Virginia. My focus is on the Italian American experience, from family stories to little known history to businesses to cultural events, etc. Mostly the good, but sometimes the not so good. Today, I have with me Angelo Tenaglia on his memories of the Italian Festival, which was held at Villa Rosa Nursing Home in Mitchellville, Maryland. Ange, welcome.
Thank you, Joe. Pleasure
Thank
to be
you.
here.
I'm so glad. Thank you for joining me. So, Ange, why don't you tell me a little bit about where you grew up and where your family is from in Italy?
Sure. Yeah, my family was originally from the Abruzzi region in Italy. Specifically, they were born and grew up in a town called Orsonia. My father was a brick mason, and he came to the U.S. in the 50s, working for his cousins, Dominic and Joe, in a brick contracting company. And yeah, they moved to Maryland, specifically Hillcrest Heights, Maryland, which is most people know off of Branch Avenue and Iverson Mall and that area. We had a lot of Italian Americans there as well, also Italians. They came over from that same Abruzzi region. And yeah, it was wonderful. It was, all the families were kind of in walking distance, and we had a really good upbringing up there in Maryland. Yeah.
And when did you leave the area?
I left the area in around 2000, moved to Colorado Springs. Basically, fell in love. I did some contracting work for a company called Northrop Grumman and did some work out there and really loved the open space and the mountains and just decided, you know, get away from the traffic and
I can
and
understand.
the humidity and move out.
I can
So it was
understand.
good. It was a good move.
Right. So, what is your earliest memory of the Italian festival at Villa Rosa, and what year would that be about?
The first memories I have of the festival was, I think I was around 10 years old in 1973. I went with my family. They actually worked and were working in a porchetta stand over there at the festival. And so I supported them, to get the trays of porchetta and the bread and other items. But my memories really during that time, my father gave me a little mini bike, and they had open fields there at Villa Rosa. And I remember before the festival, I would used to ride that mini bike all through those fields. And really, those memories were great. I really enjoyed just that time with friends and family. It was incredible times.
So, who were some of the guys and gals that you palled around with at the festival?
Yeah, my neighbors, Vincenzo, Chancho, were there, and we used to hang out, as well as my friend Ken Harris, who was also a neighbor. But we had other families like the Antonellis and the Bonanis and Finellis that we hung out with during that time at Villa Rosa. Just wonderful times.
And what were some of the other memories that you had? I mean, you probably went for quite a number of years because the festival went on for many years, and I think it died finally just before COVID, probably about 2015 or so. But what are some of your other memories of it?
Well, I personally remember the kind of the sights and smells, the great smells of the food, different types of pasta, and some of the events. Specifically, I remember the grease pole event where you'd have teams and they would try to get the flag at the top. But so all the ingenuity that they would use to try to get that flag and slip and slide off that pole. That stuck in my mind, as one of the really interesting events that they had there. But they also had games, as a child during that time that you know, partaked in while I was there. So, but yeah, I think the memories were just hanging out with the friends and enjoying the company of all the Italian American families that we knew at the time.
And do you remember anything about the music that was there?
No, yeah, I don't recall as much. I was kind of young at the time, so I don't recall the music. No.
And anything else? Did you get into any trouble at the festival?
Well, the only trouble I got was actually when I rode that little mini bike. I had a friend that was on the back, and we kind of hit a stump and flew off and scraped up our legs and stuff. So we had to go to the Villa Rosa, the retirement home there, to patch us up. But that was the only trouble. We were pretty good kids. We stayed out of trouble while we were there.
Cool. And when was the last time that you went? Do you remember?
I believe it was in 1977 or 78. So it was only about 4 or 5 years that we attended. And again, my father was in, parents were involved in a group called the Orsagna Club out of Holy Rosary Church over there. They'd had a lot of functions in Washington, D.C. And yeah, they manned that porchetta stand for quite a while. So we supported that for maybe 4 to 5 years that I recall.
And and do you remember or recall or your parents talking about, you know, of course you had to make everything, etc. Where the money that was raised go? Did it go to Holy Rosary? Did it go to Villa Rosa? Did it go back to the society that your parents were part of?
Yeah, I believe primarily it went to the Villa Rosa. I believe that was a retirement home there on in the area. So I think most of the money that was raised went to that charity there.
And what do you recall about, it's interesting. You bring up the society. This is the first time I've heard of it. And I've gone to Holy Rosary on and off for a number of years. What do you recall about the society? I granted it was people from the town, but what were some of the events of the society?
The events were they would have but primarily they would have, like, functions, dances, Christmas dances, or other holidays that they would just have functions, basically, and they would have monthly meetings there at the Holy Rosary, halls that they had in the church area, and I just recall, as a young child, we would love to go there and meet with our friends and play play little, like, soccer games inside the hall and other type games. But yeah, the group, originally started, like I said, with the Orsagna community, which is very large actually in New York at the moment. They've withstood the test of time there, but I know the Orsagna Club, I think it went until the mid '80s or so and are no longer at, that area is in DC.
Yeah, because I started going to Holy Rosary in mid-1991, and I don't recall hearing about that society at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, most of the folks, scattered, I think most of the Italian Americans like myself, right, that moved out to different areas and they didn't sustain the younger generation did not sustain that society.
Sure. Do you have any other thoughts or any other memories of the Italian festival that you'd like to share?
Well, I just had, well, as I mentioned, some fond memories of the people, the food, especially, and I think growing up in the Italian American area neighborhoods and just meeting the people, understanding the cultures. I learned so much, even at Villa Rosa, the different cultures that were there, whether it's from, Calabrese or Sicilian. We made some additional friends while we were there and sustained those friendships even now. I still have Sicilian friends that are in Maryland or even in Florida that I still talk to. But yeah, it was just a great events during the 70s that I'm just glad I had that opportunity to go.
And were you didn't happen to be there on the day that Nixon showed up at the Italian festival, were you?
No, I do not recall that. I'm sure I would have remembered that one. Yeah.
Okay. Well then, Ange, I want to take this opportunity then to say thank you. Thank you for being part of this podcast. And I want to let our listeners know that if you're ever interested in being on this podcast, please feel free to contact me at chowdmv@gmail.com. That's chow, CIAO, DMV at gmail.com. And remember, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, please take a moment to like, comment, subscribe, and or share with a friend. This is Joseph Barone, your host, signing out. Ciao for now.